Yeah, I mean, it's probably the biggest challenge in cricket now, winning away in India. Not many teams have done that over the last few years. Not many teams have done it in the history of Test match cricket. But England are on a roll, so they've got a sneaky chance, but it's going to be tough. Yeah, I mean, particularly at this minute, England are on the back of winning 4 series on the trot. Tremendous 2-0 victory in Sri Lanka in tough conditions. Not the greatest Sri Lankan team, but winning there is never easy. India, in my opinion, have just produced the best performance in my time watching Test match cricket. To win in Australia with a second-string team going 1-0 down, been bowled out for 36 in Adelaide in the pink ball game, then go to Melbourne without the skipper Virat Kohli. Ajinkya Rahane takes the reins and gets 100. They win in Melbourne. They managed to scrape a draw in Sydney somehow, batting the whole of the last day. And then to win in Brisbane. I mean, no one beats Australia in Brisbane. No. Yet this young Indian side, full of inexperience, produced an incredible run chase on the last day. And for me, that was the greatest in my time Test series victory of them all, because of what they had to put up with and the team that they had to put out and the amount of youngsters that they had to play. Yeah, I think we're going through a year, really, in these tough times for all these sports people that are in these bio bubbles. The cricket has been incredible. The standard, but I do think we are seeing more of the underdog winning. You don't have to look at football. Sheffield United winning Manchester United last week. No one gave them a cat in hell's chance. They went and did it. I'm just seeing more of that in sport. So anything's possible. Over 4 matches, though, it's tough. I think you can have a week where it goes really well, but this Indian side will certainly have a couple of weeks where they're going to be very powerful. You've just got to hang in there. You've just got to try and take the game to days 4 and 5 and just hope that you're close to them. And then funny things can happen. That's what India did in that series in Australia. They just stayed close to Australia on day 4 and 5. They managed to scrape that draw, as I said, in Sydney. And they've got players. I mean, the difference between what England will come up against in the next few weeks to what they've had in Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka had a couple of players in terms of the batting hand, and they had one bowler. The left-arm spinner was very good. I don't think there'll be a weak link. Whichever the 11 is that India put out, I think they'll have 7, probably 8 batters that can get 100, and they'll have 4 bowlers that all can get 5 for. They all can have their moment and their hours bowling that they could rip you apart because they're that good. But this England side, they seem to be onto something. There's something happening with the Test team that I think we've done the show for years, and we've always been a little bit, the Test team have disappointed us. They've kind of crumbled again, or they've not quite got the consistency levels right. Whereas this last year and a half, we've watched them. They've had the odd little blip. West Indies at home last year when they lost that game, losing that first game in South Africa badly. But other than that, they've been consistent. And they'll have to be over the next few weeks very consistent to try and take this Indian team to day 4 and 5. And then you just hope then, don't you, Phil? You hope you could just have a little sneaky sniff of putting them under pressure, and you just never know.
That's for sure.
I must admit, Phil, if it by the second Test match there is 50% capacity, it would be great. But I also look at it and go, how could it be possible? When you think the England team have just had to do 6 days on their own in a hotel room, and then in a week and a half's time thinking about having potentially 40,000 in a stadium. I find that quite bizarre, but let's hope and see if that happens. The one thing that this Indian side will not do, they won't care that it's Stuart Broad or Jimmy Anderson bowling. If Jimmy Anderson bowls that ball outside off stump, you felt that the Sri Lankans were petrified of his name. And Stuart Broad, the record that they bring. Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, they won't care. If that ball's there to be hit, they're going to hit it. And they won't be worried about Stuart Broad or Jimmy Anderson or the experience that they provide. This Indian batting lineup is so flamboyant. They've got Pujara at number 3, who I believe in Test match cricket, every team needs a Pujara.
Yes,
every single great Test match team needs someone that just likes to bat a long period of time and actually doesn't even look at the score. But it's like, I'm here all day. I'm just going to bat. If I get 55, that's what I'm going to get, because I'm just going to try and wear you all down. And it allows my flamboyant teammates to come and take you down when you're a little bit, get more tired later on in the day. But every team needs a Pujara. And then you've got Virat Kohli back. You've got Rahane in fine form. Rishabh Pant is just strap yourself in when he goes out to bat, because you just know that he's just going to try and attack. Yeah. And if he has a session of batting, you know that he can take the game away from him. Then you've got the likes of Ravi Ashwin, who'll be down at 7 or 8. He's got 4 Test match centuries, very technically strong. He was one of the players that batted out that last day in Sydney. You look at their 11, and Phil will be back in '92, was it, Phil? When you look at their 11 India on those weeks and go, how are you going to get 20 wickets? And you need 20 wickets. You obviously need runs, but you need 20 wickets to win a Test match. And you look at their line and go, where are you getting 20 wickets from?
They start eating you away.
They lost 4-0. England
lost 4-0 and played well.
That is the problem when you play a team like you can actually play quite well and get hammered. They are that good in their home backyard that you could have 3 days where you think, well, we've played great cricket, and all of a sudden on the last day or the last 2 days, they can just blow you away. That's why they're such a powerful unit. Yeah, he's a class act. So I've done an interview with him for the paper I work with. I think it's out tomorrow morning, and I had half an hour with him just asking him questions, and some of his answers. I mean, the one thing that he said every time he's got 100 for England in Test match cricket, they've never lost. Which was, wow, I didn't know that. So what he's done, at the end of last year, leading into it's such a big year for him and the team, is that I think he's assessed that he's got to be a bit more selfish with the batting hand. He started in Sri Lanka double, big 100, because he knows that if he gets runs and gets hundreds, the record states England don't lose. So he's going to put it on himself this year to try and get as many runs as possible, try and get as many hundreds, and with those stats, it's a very likely chance that England aren't going to lose the game. One of his big things that he says is, we asked him to name his top 5 centuries. And I can't remember when he mentions his first one against New Zealand, he mentions his first against Australia, he mentioned one with Jimmy Anderson at the other end in the Ashes, I think in 2015 at Trent Bridge. But the answer that really kind of hit me went, do you know what, it's not the 5 that I've had, it's the next one. That's the most important and the one that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the one in India. I want one in India now. I've had 2 in Sri Lanka. I can go through the 19. I can pick 2 or 3 from one-day cricket as well, but it's the next one. And this is what real great sports people do, is that they're always on a little bit of edge. They're having he's having a great time of it, but I think in the back of his mind he's thinking, wait a minute, it's great to do it against Sri Lanka away from home, tough conditions, batting second on both occasions, in a tricky position, particularly that second Test match, and he led the way brilliantly with the bat. But you want to do it in India away, you want to do it in Australia. He's yet to get 100 in Australia, and that's something I wouldn't say it's on the back of his mind, but I think he wants to put that to bed later on in the year. His leadership's getting better and better. He's won 25 games as England captain, and I still hear people saying, he's still a young captain. He's won 25 games as an England captain. Now, I think the captaincy looks after itself now. I think the players know exactly how he operates. The first year or so that you get the job, it's difficult because you're trying to work out how you're operating as a leader. You're not quite sure of yourself. You're not quite sure how to do it. You've got to remember, you're generally a young man when you get the job, and everyone expects you to lead like a mature human being, and you're not that at the stage that you get the England captain. So it does take a little bit of time. In the last year in particular, I think, Phil, I'm sure will agree, we're seeing an England captain. Before that, I thought we didn't quite knew what kind of style Joe Root was trying to be as an England cricket captain. We're absolutely sure now that he's very calm. You hear that from all the players, that they feel that he's got this great mentality around the dressing room. Joe Root himself spoke brilliantly about Chris Silverwood, who said he's exactly the same, just stays nice and level, doesn't get too excited when it goes well, doesn't get too in the dumps when it goes badly. They look a good combination at the minute, but this next 10 months is the ultimate challenge. India away, New Zealand at home, India at home, and then Australia away. This is what you kind of built up for. Yeah, I don't think England win by being 10 for 2. Like they were in Sri Lanka on pretty much every occasion. You can't be getting Joe Root out there at 10 for 2 every time and saying, go on Joe, get us 150 plus if you can. You're looking at some of the players who are in the team or will be playing. You would think Rory Burns has played no cricket. You would think he's going to open with Dom Sibley. Ben Stokes is back into the team again, played no cricket. Will Jofra Archer play? You would think so, with Mark Wood not being there. They'll want that, obviously, one element of pace in the side. Moeen Ali, will he play? He's not played any cricket. So this first test, as Phil says, the wheels can come off quickly, and it's so important that England start well. If they start well and get a bit of confidence, in sport these days, anything is possible, but you can get blown away the first week, and then it becomes a very, very tricky time. When England won there in 2012-13, it was remarkable. They went 1-0 down. I think everyone thought 4-0, completely blown away. And then they went to Mumbai and won. Then they went to Calcutta and won. Then they drew the last game. It was an incredible series victory, but you just get a sense against this Indian team that are so confident and full of so much expertise. If you start badly against them, I think they're going to walk all over them. I think he's back in the Test match team. He's been out of it for a while. He played so well in Sri Lanka. He's 2 Test matches back into his time back into the Test team, and surely you'd want a player who's playing all right in spinning conditions to start against India. But they've made that call. That, I understand the bio-bubble, but it's not easy. Jos Buttler one I find difficult to understand. He's such an important player this year. He's such a high-quality Test match player. Surely it would have been better for him to miss the 2 against Sri Lanka and play the 4 against the best team in the world in India. So I think it'll go as Rory Burns, Sibley, Crawley at 3, Joe Root, Stokes at 5. I've got down Dan Lawrence at 6, or Moeen Ali, depending on what they want to do with Moeen Ali, because he's got a couple of nice scores against India, particularly over there. Buttler at 7. Then you go Bess, Archer, Leach, Anderson or Broad. That's what I've got written down. Phil, have you got any changes? I mean, you generally try and...
Really.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be looked at. I just think you've got to pinpoint, in such a busy calendar, what are the most important series, and the most important series, if I'm a captain, I want my best team. And if I was Joe Root, I would want my best team for the India away series. I just think it's such a big challenge. You're building towards trying to make sure that they go down to Australia in a few months' time with a mentality of playing backs to the wall cricket, and at times you've got to be flamboyant and take the risks. I personally would have wanted my best team for the 4 matches against India, and if that meant 2 or 3 others rested for the 2 against Sri Lanka, I'd have taken that. I'll get called negative, but I just think India are going to be too strong. I think it'll be 3-0.